Hi friends, my name is Maruti and I'm the co-founder of Cracku. In this video, I'll be doing the analysis for the All India Open mock that we conducted last week. So let us first get started. I'll discuss each of the three sections, verbal, LRD and quant. What are the questions that should have been attempted? What are the questions that should have been left alone? And also the expected percentile in actual CAT based on how much you score in this mock. So if we first start off with the verbal section, in verbal section, there were 4 RCs and there were 8 verbal questions. Amongst the RCs, if I'm looking at the RCs, there is one RC on fiction. It was a literature-based RC. Then there was an RC on psychology. Let me just get a sense of it. Yeah, this was about cognitive thing, which is about apologies. This was a psychology one. The third one was about geography. I think this was about Nile and pyramids. The fourth one was informative about coral reefs. Now, when I first looked at the RCs, my strategy always is to attempt 2 RCs first. I try to pick the RCs which I feel are easy so that I can score well when my brain is fresh and not tired. I picked the third and the fourth RCs, which I think was actually not the right way to go. Once you look at each of the RC, I felt this was the easiest RC. The one on psychology and apologies, I think was a very easy RC. But I didn't realize it when I looked at the topic. According to the topic, I thought about Nile and pyramid seems to be more engaging. So I attempted this RC first. But this was definitely on the medium difficulty level. Because even though the RC was easy to read, the questions were not very easy to answer. In fact, all the 4 RCs I felt were easy to read, but the questions were not easy. That is interesting. The next one I attempted was about coral reefs. Again, I thought that was a topic which interests me. But I found the questions also to be very difficult. I thought this was the most difficult RC. So I attempted this one first and I attempted the informative, the coral reefs one next. Both of them were not easy RCs, especially the questions, but they were easy to read. Then I went for the literature one, which was about, I think, fiction. That I thought was also a very difficult RC because I was not able to read it also very easily. If I'm looking at the reading aspect, I think this passage was the most difficult to read. And questions were also not very easy. So this I think was also a difficult RC. But this second RC I think was definitely on the easier side. But overall I would say the RCs were on the medium level because there is one RC which is easy. There were 2 RCs which are medium and one RC which is slightly on the medium to hard side. Now coming to the verbal ability, I thought verbal ability was definitely on the easier side this time. Para jumbles was medium to hard. Para summary was medium. In fact, I would say para jumbles was more or less not too difficult because I normally face a lot of difficulty in para jumbles. I try to get the order correct, but I make some mistake or the other. So for example, if the final answer is say 1432, I might give it as say 3214, where I have recognized the relationship between 1 and 4. I have recognized the relationship between 3 and 2, but I don't know which one of these pairs comes first and which one comes last. So normally I come close to answering it, but I don't get it correct. Here I felt in para jumbles at least one of the questions was definitely on the easier side. I was able to get it correct. Out of context I thought was fairly easy. I was able to get both the questions correct. And if you're looking at the passage also, if you're looking at those 5 options, you can easily figure out that 2 or 3 are definitely part of one system together. And more or less, because I don't want to give out too many clues, but there are some proper nouns which are used 2 times in 2 lines. Then you would immediately figure out that one of the 2 has to be wrong because both of them seem like they're the starting sentence of a passage. You don't, for example, you don't say, and then Ram came twice, or Ram did this. Because after the first time you introduce that proper noun, from the following sentences, you refer to him as he or she. Similarly, over here, if the proper noun was coming in 2 sentences, in a way where you are introducing the character, I felt one of the 2 is out of context. One of the 2 has to be wrong. So using these kind of clues, I was able to get both the out of context easy. Both of them correct. So I felt this was definitely on the easy side. Para insertion, normally I find them to be easy because you can easily identify where a paragraph will come, a sentence will come in a paragraph. That seems more easy. But for some reason, I felt I was not able to do too well this time. So I put this as medium. This is basically on how I was able to attempt and how I was able to get questions correct or wrong. Overall, I would say that this is a moderately difficult section. This is not a very difficult section. This is a moderately difficult section. The reason for moderateness is because I think verbal ability was definitely on the slightly easier side. The RCs were doable, especially with respect to the psychology and the geography ones. All the RCs I felt were easy to read. Maybe the first one was slightly difficult to read, the fiction one, but the remaining 3 RCs were definitely easy to read. Even the fiction one was not impossible to read. Sometimes you get RCs which are very difficult to read. Here there was no such RC. The questions were definitely tricky, where I felt Sometimes RCs are difficult to read, but you will get the questions correct. Here, I felt the questions were definitely on the tricky side. Many of them were inference-based questions, so that was fairly difficult. Each paragraph, if you are understanding the crux of each paragraph in that passage, I think answering the questions will become easy. And yeah, over here also, in general, for answering RCs, what I try to do is eliminate the options. This I think I tell in many of my analysis videos. When you try to eliminate an option in an RC, it works out very well. The reason for that is because in 4 options, A, B, C, D, you will not get any option which is completely wrong in an RC. Very rarely you will get that. What will happen is that there will be one option which is 100% correct. That will be, say, option C. Option A will be, say, 80% correct and 20% wrong. Option B will be 70% correct and 30% wrong, based on basically the degree of the statements. Option D will be, say, 60% correct and 40% wrong. Now, if you're trying to identify which of the 4 options is correct, you will find something or the other which is correct in each of the 4 options. Then you get confused. What I try to do is, I try to find out which of the options is wrong. So if I, for example, find that this option 80% is correct, but there is 20% which is wrong, I eliminate it. Similarly, in any option, if I'm finding something wrong, what do I mean by wrong? If there is an exaggeration, if there is a distortion, if there is a change in the degree of the statement. Change in the degree of the statement basically means that if, say, in the passage it is given that there is one guy, Ram, who is one of the good students, who is a good student in the class. But in the options, it is mentioned that Ram topped the class, or Ram is the best student in the class. Now, many times it is easy for us to ignore it, because subconsciously we remember that, okay, there is this guy Ram, who is a good student, and the option says is the best student, so we feel that, okay, it is possibly correct, and then we go to the next one. But here you should notice that this is a change in the degree of the statement. What is mentioned only is that Ram is a good student. It is not mentioned that he is the best in the class. So then you should eliminate it. So eliminating options always helps in RCs, because you will find one option which is definitely 100% correct. There is nothing wrong in that option. Those kind of options you have to select, which works in most RCs. This worked in this RC also. Now let us look at the LRDI section. In LRDI section, just give me a minute. In LRDI section, there were 4 LRDI sets. The first one was in maxima and minima. This was a medium set to a hard set. It is a medium to hard set because I think it is slightly confusing. If somebody knows maxima minima well, I think they'll answer this fairly easily. But the setup is slightly confusing, so they might have difficulty in answering it. The scheduling one, the second set, I thought was a fairly difficult set, very time consuming also. It is not an easy set, but you can do it. It is not an impossible set. It is a set you can do if you put in some effort, if you have some luck. I think it is doable, but it is going to take you a lot of time. There is one set which is games and tournaments. This I think was definitely the easiest set out of the 4, and individual questions can be answered in this. That also I felt was interesting, because at least 2 or 3 questions are fairly straightforward. Nothing tricky in this. It is just some calculations and some numbers, but this is a set you should definitely attempt. The last one was a DA Venn diagram. This also is a set which can be attempted. This also is a set which is not very difficult. If you spend 12 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, you should get it correct. Normally, across the 4, somebody who is aiming to score 99 plus in LRDI, there are some people who would say LRDI is my strength. Anybody who is saying LRDI is my strength, I do very well in LRDI, they'll have to get this set correct, the games and tournament set, in 12 minutes. They have to get the DA Venn diagram set again in 12 minutes. And scheduling, I think, is difficult to solve in 12 to 15 minutes, but they can attempt some questions in maximum and minimum. So overall, I think they can, somebody who is very good should be able to get, say, 2.5 sets correct. A normal student, somebody who is aiming to get, say, 90 percentile plus in LRDI, I would say still, if they keep their composure, if they pick the right sets, and if they have picked this set and this set, for example, they should get both the sets correct in 40 minutes. If they are not getting greedy, if they feel that, okay, my target is to get 2 sets correct, and for each set I have 20 minutes. If somebody is calm and composed like that, I think getting both these sets correct also is definitely possible. It is not impossible. So having said that, I would say that the 99 percentile is around 26 marks. I think definitely 26 marks is attainable in this LRDI section, because as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 sets which are eminently doable. One thing that we always try to do is we don't try to give clues from the options. Sometimes what happens is you are not able to solve a set. You feel that there are 2 or 3 arrangements possible. There is one arrangement. If it is an arrangement set, there are 2 arrangements possible, and you don't know which of the 2 is correct. You might feel that, okay, maybe both the arrangements are possible. In those kind of situations, when you look at the questions, and if you're looking at one question, for example, in one of the arrangement, there is one guy A who has, say, 2 chocolates. and B has say 5 chocolates, and C and D and all. This is say one arrangement. There is another arrangement where A has 3 chocolates, B has 2 chocolates, C and D and everything, everyone gets the others. You know that either it is the first arrangement or it is the second arrangement. Now what I mean by solving the set by looking at the questions and the options is that if say one of the question is how many chocolates does A have? And the options that are given to you are say 7, 5, 2 and 4. There is no 3 given over here. Then immediately you know that this case doesn't exist. You might have made some mistake where you are not able to eliminate this case. The only case that will exist is this, where immediately you know that 2 has to be the correct answer and you have eliminated one case and you're going to solve the entire set. Many times it works out that if you're able to figure out that there are 3 arrangements possible and you have to figure out which of the 3 arrangements is correct, by looking at some of the questions and the options, you can actually solve the set. The point is, in this LRDI section, it is difficult for you to get any clues from the options. That is basically what we are saying. It is difficult to get clues because the questions themselves are like that. Where if you're looking at maxima, minima, the set, it is an individual question set. Each question is independent of the other one. The scheduling one is dependent. Scheduling one, you might get some clues from the options, but it is a very difficult set. I don't expect many people to actually get it correct or be able to solve it in 20 minutes. It is a time sink. So that is the reason you might not gain a lot from the options from the scheduling set. Again, the games and tournaments is an individual question set. By individual question, I mean each question is kind of independent from the rest. And then you have activities, the Venn diagram set. Again, not much can be done by the options. That is what we mean. Selection of set, like we said, is very important. There are 2 sets which are easy. Accuracy, as usual, is important in LRDI because if you make one mistake at the start, for example, in the Venn diagram set, if you made one mistake in actually noting down the data from the DI, it is a DI plus Venn diagram set, then you will get the entire set wrong. So accuracy is super important. So overall, this is what I would feel with respect to LRDI. It is again a medium level difficulty, probably a slightly easier LRDI section. Let us look at the next one, which is Quant. Quant I felt was definitely on the slightly easier side as compared to CAT 2023, but not very easy, not very trivial. Arithmetic, as usual, we try to keep it doable. We try to keep it slightly on the easier side because that is what we expect in the examination. So if you're looking at ratio, proportion, time and work, profit and loss, all these are scoring questions. You are able to get around 10 questions which are definitely scoring. There are some algebra questions like linear equations, quadratic equations, inequalities which are on the harder side. And most of the remaining things I felt were medium to hard. Most of the remaining ones, which is either functions or geometry, number systems, probability, all of these, there are possibilities for you to actually go wrong. But the arithmetic is where you have to score the most. That is what we would feel in Quant. Quant is definitely on the slightly easier side as compared to CAT 2023, which was a very difficult examination. But again, not a very easy one. This also, I think the questions, none of the questions are like trivial, but doable. That is the difficulty level that we put for each one of them. Arithmetic was easy. Algebra moderate. Geometry, probability and number systems was hard. Now, in Quant, like in every mock, in Quant, selection of the questions is very important. So if you actually get stuck in some of the topics that we mentioned earlier, like for example, if you get stuck in a probability question or a geometry question and you waste a lot of time, you will not have actual time to solve the easier questions. If you learn from it or if you already knew it and you try to avoid questions which appear as time sinks and go to the next one, I think you will find out that there are at least 5 to 6 questions which are fairly definitely doable. That is with respect to Quant, where I would say this is again a medium level difficulty, slightly on the easier side as compared to CAT 2023. Let us look at the expected percentiles. In Quant, expected percentile for 99 is 32. In LRDI, it is 26. In verbal, it is 35 approximately. 95 in Quant is 21. LRDI is 19. Verbal is 27. And you can get it for even 80 percentile for each one of the 3 sections. Overall, I think 99 is 82 marks, 62 marks overall for 95 and 47 for 80 percentile. Any student who is enrolled to Cracku, the Cracku mocks, can still take the All India Open mock exam, which is there on our website. You can just search for Cracku CAT mocks. Go to that page. In that page, you can see the All India Open mock. That is now available only for the students of Cracku who are enrolled to the mocks and sectionals. I hope this video was useful for you. If you have any doubt with respect to your CAT preparation or with respect to this Open All India mock, you can comment below this video. I'll look at all the comments and I'll try to respond to them to the best of my ability.